What is going on? It is Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be reviewing CBS's brand new 2024 NFL mock draft. So if you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Y'all know how to use YouTube at this point. Let's get right into this. Below my face is my board. Below that are all the great ways to get involved with the community, as well as take advantage of our two sponsors, Olipop as well as UnderDog Fantasy. So use those codes, make your money, or spend it. I don't care. Help out your boy. But yes, Olipop, I do use it all the time. I get my sponsors because they're brands that I love. And also the reps over at Underdog are actually really great people. So I love to show them all the love in the world. Again, feel free to follow me at my other links as well. Instagram been popping off a little bit more. And that's also a great way to be able to see a couple more pictures. Twitter is where I'm most active besides here. Let's go right into this. Wide receivers are actually getting reevaluated at the moment. I actually do need to move Keon Coleman down a little bit on my board because it's weird. All the wide receivers are starting to cluster at one particular point, and it's very intriguing. So I'll show you guys that as this progresses, and of course, that means we're going to have a receivers rankings video coming out very soon that is extremely up to date. Let's get right into it, though. This is a live reaction as well. I have not seen anything about this, so this is, of course, going to be very, very exciting. Caleb Williams goes 1, of course. So curious where, they would project Justin Fields to go. They're not saying anything. Right now, the odds say it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'd be down for that. Maybe you can get Deontay Johnson traded essentially for Justin Fields, have Darnell Mooney end up following Justin since they're really tight, and end up joining the Steelers. Could essentially be a one-to-one replacement right there. But that is all pure speculation. Caleb Williams is phenomenal. You just can't pass on the potential of getting your next Patrick Mahomes. As much as I love Justin Fields, because I am much more on the truther side than anything, I think that Caleb Williams is still a better prospect and a better choice. Pick 2, Jayden Daniels goes to Washington. Cliff Kingsbury is going to be a little bit more in favor of working with a very mobile quarterback. I don't think this rules out Sam Howell from being a legitimate option. Sam was a really athletic quarterback there at UNC, and he's still athletic now. He's a little bit on the shorter side compared to Jayden Daniels, who's 6'4", but Jayden is Lamar-esque with his escapability. I know that's the easy term to throw in there, just like Patrick Mahomes when you see a playmaker like Caleb Williams. Not going to say that that is exactly the profile for Jayden, but the escapability is almost to that level, and that's very, very tough to have. That's one of those traits where you either have it or you don't, and Jayden does have it. Again, another one of those guys who I just absolutely adore because of the progression. Like, Jayden was someone who I absolutely detested coming into the year. Just got to be honest. As a quarterback, I didn't have much faith in him. He was a quarterback just a couple years ago, had over 50% uncatchable throw rate. Dude's worked on his game so much to where he's throwing absolute laser dots, like complete dimes to like top-end receivers going top-end speeds. That needs to mean something. So, give respect for Jayden because he proved a lot of us wrong, including myself. Drake Maye then goes at pick number 3 to New England. I do think this might be a good spot for Marvin Harrison Jr. We'll see if he ends up staying at my number 1 overall position because it is extremely difficult to maintain a number 1 overall spot when I start reevaluating all these amazing prospects because we're having quite a few really solid wide receivers in the mix. But Drake Maye, it's one of those positions New England has yet to really fully address since Tom Brady's departed, and Drake Maye is a good chance at being a significant upgrade from where they're at. Of course, that leaves MHJ sitting here at pick 4. It is what it is. I know offensive tackle is a big position to go after, a corner as well. If Marvin Harrison Jr. gets taken at pick 3, I think Arizona will be trading out, and maybe Drake Maye then goes at pick 4, or Jayden Daniels goes at pick 4. Or you could even see a team that is cornerback hungry getting excited for Terrion Arnold because every year we get surprised with a top 10 player that's selected as a corner and we don't really project them to be a top 10 player selected. Or they end up being top 10 and then they get selected top 5. Got to start realizing that the NFL just loves corners. So honestly, even with MHJ on the board, do not be surprised if at least Terrion Arnold is in the mix. This team does need cornerback pretty desperately. Of course, I would be going after Marvin Harrison Jr., but I have to throw out that idea. Pick at number 5. Harbaugh stays in the Big Ten to go after tackle Olu Fashanu. I'm not there yet with Olu. I love Olu. He is number 7 on my board. So it is what it is. I'm more of a Talise Fuaga guy if you're going to be having him play right tackle. I don't like taking prospect or project tackles who have been growing at left tackle and then putting them to right tackle before they're finished developing. I mean, Evan Neal kind of taught me that lesson. I feel like this would be a very similar profile because Olu is still developing. Of course, if I mean, we can't really trust CBS that much, but if CBS has him ranked at number 3 overall, it is understandable as to why they would pick him there. Pick 6, Malik Neighbors goes to the New York Giants. Makes sense. It's a pick that I make myself. He's a fantastic player. He is up for a re-review, even though his grade is up to date. I still want to watch all the receivers within like a 2 to 3 day span, which has been absolutely draining, but that is okay. It's all actually, at least we have some really good receivers in the class, so I can actually enjoy watching the tape. But just sometimes, the skip forward button, that looks really inappropriate. But I'm just trying to say this in a non inappropriate context, but my hands are worn out. No, that didn't make it any better. Let's continue on. Regardless, still great player. Love him to death. That's a great move for the New York Giants. Joe Alt is the perfect pick there for the Titans as well. They need a left tackle, and he's just perfect. It's a match made in heaven for Peter Skoronski there at left guard. Leatu Latu goes at pick 8 to the Falcons. Doesn't really seem to be something that Raheem Morris necessarily would like. I don't think that's the style of edge rusher that he's going to want to bring in because Latu has those shorter arms. Like, I do think that there is a value placed on pure athleticism after Byron Young did so damn well under Raheem Morris. So I actually do think Dallas Turner is a far more likely option, or wait till round 2 because there's a couple targets there that I do believe would actually fit this team very, very well. I'd be looking at wide receiver here with Rome Odunze, though. At pick number 9, the Bears go Dallas Turner over Rome Odunze. I just regraded Odunze. I love him as a blocker. There's still parts of his game that I really don't think translate to the NFL as well as people think it does. But, I mean, we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get there. I think he's going to be an elite tier wide receiver, too, that will produce wide receiver 1 numbers. I just need a true wide receiver 1 like DJ Moore. So that's why I'm actually pretty big in favor of it for the Chicago Bears. And with the quantity of edge rushers in this class, I think the Bears might be pretty fine sticking at wide receiver and waiting for edge rusher. I think they'll be okay. So I love it, but I think there is a better pick. Talise Fuaga goes to the New York Jets. Obviously, I already made my claim for him at pick 5. Pick 10 is no different. Pick number 11, Terrion Arnold goes to the Vikings. I'm building up my my Vikings rebuild right now, or not Vikings rebuild, my Vikings ultimate draft guide. So stay tuned for that. Very excited. Honestly, the series itself doesn't get any views. Like, everybody knows in the industry, if you start doing team specific content, you're going to absolutely destroy the algorithm. But 1, it's a great learning experience for me. 2, you guys do love it because those fans of those teams, like, I'm not making it for all 32 teams. I'm making it for yours, right? So you'll love it. But I also get to learn about a lot of things like cap. Cap is something that I've had a very difficult time understanding because of all the little nuances that the NFL loves to have. And, the Vikings have been a big, big, big teacher in terms of understanding this dead cap situation because y'all have like 28 million in available space with like a billion free agents. You're going to have to restructure a shit ton of people if you want to be able to sign some actual legitimate talent. That being said, with $28 million and a projected $20 million a year for Danielle Hunter, you don't have flexibility to get anything. So no disrespect to y'all, because I do actually really like the Vikings. You don't have the luxury of going after the best player available, which I think Terrion Arnold might be. Like, looking at my board, it's Brock Bowers, but that's not going to fit y'all. So the best for you guys is Terrion Arnold. Go after Jared Verse. Just do it. Do yourself the favor. And get a really good player that is worth, essentially, you're saving $20 million by doing that. At pick 12, Rome Odunze goes to the Denver Broncos. I honestly think this is not only a move for the Broncos themselves, but it's also a defensive move against a team like the Chiefs that could be looking for Rome Odunze. I think Rome Odunze's perfect fit is on the Chiefs. Hot take, but it is what it is. So I was talking about Rome Odunze a little bit earlier in the video. I think it was at pick number 9 or 8, but in case you want to go back there and rehear some of the recap that I've already had. But regraded Rome Odunze yesterday, and his grade went up. That's one positive thing. I love tracking how they are year over year. I don't factor in pure potential into the actual grade because I care about the player they are now. And then I'll put them on my board, factoring in where I think they should go. Obviously, like there's going to be a little bit of nuance between a 24-year-old big receiver that doesn't have very much flexibility and a wide receiver like Rome Odunze, who's 6'3", 215, fluid, and overall, a lot more room to grow, but he's already grown a ton. There is room for flexibility for right there. But Rome himself, he doesn't blow me away the way that pick 12 wide receiver should. But he's one hell of a blocker. He has an unending motor. I want him on my team. And I know for damn sure I wouldn't be getting him if I waited any longer. So I'm fine with this. I also think that he can be an elite wide receiver too that produces like a wide receiver one. Or you at least have to have a dynamic duo. I don't know if Rome Odunze can pull it off on his own. That's not saying he can't, but I'm just very uncertain of it. He's a good wide receiver with a great frame. He's still developing as a route runner. Never has been good as a route runner, but he's just a good player. And in the red zone, that's where he shines. He just knows how to generate separation in the red zone. And that's a massive plus. A massive plus. And it's hard to factor that into a grading scale, which is why I also end up having my own board. That's not just a grading scale. So there you go. That's my long-winded way of talking about Rome Odunze because I've not been the most optimistic on Rome Odunze the way some other people have put him as like their number one wide receiver. At pick 13, J.J. McCarthy goes to the Las Vegas Raiders. They're a team that should be looking for an upgrade at QB. I just am not sure if JJ's the guy that I'm ready to wholeheartedly believe in as the future of the Raiders. That's not saying he can't be. I think in a couple years, he absolutely could develop into something really, really awesome. But I just don't trust Getsy to develop a quarterback talent. I don't trust Antonio Pierce because he's a defensive mind to develop such a raw talent. So there is something to be said about going after another free agent quarterback that is going to be a little bit more level-headed and not necessarily as much of a developmental curve. I'm not saying J.J. McCarthy is like wrong mentality-wise or at all, but I'm just saying somebody who's not in their growth phase. They're in their maturation phase. They're just chilling. They know who they are. Their strengths and weaknesses. The way Jimmy G was supposed to be. Obviously, he was caught having some Blue Chew or some other PED, but most likely Blue Chew, and dude's out, right? So that sucks because Jimmy G was a Super Bowl quarterback. I still think there's other quarterbacks you could bring into the fold, but it is what it is. J.J. McCarthy might just be the pick that when you see the tools of Jordan Love working out in the long run, maybe you might think J.J. McCarthy will be the next in that trend. J.C. Latham goes at pick 14 to the Saints. Ryan Ramczyk said he's going to be coming back, but God only knows how many years he has left. And then the left tackle spot's barren, so I think J.C. Latham's a great choice. Quinion Mitchell goes at pick 15 to the Indianapolis Colts. Corner is a position they're going to be looking for. They value physicality. Quinion brings it all. So I don't think this would be a bad pick. I'm not there yet with Quinion. He's 32 on my board, but there's just no all 22 to confirm. Like the Senior Bowl is some great insight, but I really want to see how he plays in where he has to play every single down. Yes, it's a significantly different coverage system than, every single rep he'll play in the NFL, but he still is a very talented player that I really want to dig a little bit more into before I have an official opinion. Of course, I held off my official opinion on Devon Witherspoon for a very long time until I ended up seeing his tape and falling in love with him. That's not saying that I will not love Quinion Mitchell. I might even love him more than what he was in 2022 because he was cornerback 10 coming into the year. So I still like Quinion, but I think the love needs to be proven rather than, kind of coerced into me. At pick 16, JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson, goes to the Seattle Seahawks. As a team that really does value that running game and values their offensive line, I would not be surprised by this at all. At pick number 17, Drazon Newton goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars. With probably losing Calvin Ridley, with also not having the best DB core, with also having some good, even offensive linemen on the board. I just don't know if they're going to be going after defensive interior at this point. It doesn't feel like the move Bulky would necessarily go for, especially since Jerzon's only 10 pounds lighter than like their edge rusher that they brought in at number 1 overall. I don't know if this is the compliment that Bulky will be looking for. I may be wrong. Feel free to criticize that as much as you can. I would rather be wrong now than wrong continuously later as well. So again, feel free to call me out. Don't be a dick about it. I'm right here trying to make some good content for y'all, and then checks and balances. Make sure the content's good for both of us. So, pick 18. Brock Bowers goes to the Cincinnati Bengals. I didn't even want to talk about it earlier because I'm going to bring it up for every damn team. Because, I mean, hell, you could not say that Doug Peterson would pass on Brock Bowers. He would go after it. I don't give a crap I don't give a crap about, I'm forgetting Cole Strange. Nope, that's not. Brenton Strange. I'm tripping. Penn State tight end that they got last year. I actually quite liked him, to be fair. But also, then you also have Evan Ingram there. I still think he would go after Brock Bowers. But I could say that about all the other teams before this as well. Brock Bowers is a phenomenal prospect. If he gets there to the Bengals, I will lose my mind as a Steelers fan. But it is what it is. Jared Verse then goes at 19 to the Rams. There'd have to be something coming out about Jared Verse. He's been consistent over 2 years. Has shown speed to power. Just really good build as well. I don't really think there's anything wrong with him. Like, he is, I mean, I'm going to, right now, most likely project that Braylon Trice is going to fall on my board between us, even though Braylon Trice had 80 pressures on the year. Like, I still have always felt better about Jared Verse than I have Braylon Trice because of the ankle flexion, the better bend. And, you know, even though I put Braylon Trice above Mr. Verse, that's just because in the right system, I really love Braylon Trice, but he's due for a reevaluation. That's what I'm telling y'all. Like, I don't believe that his spot at number 11 is guaranteed, but Jared Verse is in the top 10, kind of is. Amarius Mims then goes to the Steelers. I'm a sucker for storylines. Also, we need a right tackle. I think the Steelers would be actually pretty smart to potentially leverage our draft capital and player capital to move up to secure Amarius Mims in any way, shape, or form possible. Great player. Should have went back to school and ended up being a top 5 pick, but maybe the Steelers will be the ones to benefit from this. Pick 21, Troy Fautanu goes to the Dolphins. It's a team that might be looking at their eventual successor at left tackle, but also needs help at guard. And I think Troy Fautanu, even if he ends up being just a guard, is a high-level guard. He is right now at 24 on my board. At pick 22, Tyler Guyton goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. Not the pick the Eagles fans will want at all. I already know it's going to be coming in the comments section. Tyler Guyton, though, is pretty much being mentored by Lane Johnson. Loves Lane Johnson. Met with the Eagles there while in Mobile. It does kind of feel like if he is there, it's probably going to be the pick. Even though Lane Johnson looks like an absolute beast. Should probably PED test him. He looks better than probably I ever will in my entire life, regardless of my size. Like, the dude looks incredible. I doubt that he's going to be giving up football anytime soon. Unless he ends up going to, like, the UFC or some shit for a crazy huge contract. I don't know. The dude looks like an absolute unit. So, that would be your only saving grace, is that Lane Johnson's like, screw this. I'm going to be staying in football for a very, very long time. And then you could be actually getting a more impactful pick in round 1. But right now, signs are saying this would not be a far-fetched idea. Ennis Rakestraw then goes to the Texans. My Texans fans, especially Sarah, I love you. I do. I love you with all my heart. This is a good pick. There might be better picks, but just because you don't agree with something does not mean it would be a bad pick. You do need a corner 2 for the future. Steven Nelson, if I'm not mistaken, is up for a contract. You don't even have a corner 2 that is worth it on the roster. He also can play slot. He can also play some reps at safety because he's very smart. But this guy is unbelievably sticky in man coverage and reminds me of exactly who I would want to pair up with Derek Stingley. Like, the profile, if I imagined a 1-2 punch, a dynamic duo with Derek Stingley, Ennis Rakestraw might be in that group. It might be him. Like, it would be a group of guys. Ennis Rakestraw would be in it for sure. But it might be Ennis Rakestraw that would win that competition to be the ultimate number 2. That's how damn good he is. And also how well I think he does complement what you already have. So this is going to be a franchise building piece for a no-fly zone. But at the same time, there are better moves like Byron Murphy that I think would be a better day one impact. I think you'd be happy either way. I think you should be. Smile if this ends up being the future, okay? If this actually happens, it's okay. You're in good hands. Maybe you might be in better hands if you do something else, but you'd still be in good hands. I do not agree with this pick, though, for the Dallas Cowboys. Jordan Morgan. I think he played himself out of the first round as an offensive tackle, and I feel like I've been giving him a little bit more grace than what his actual play has suggested. I've been even drafting him early second, and maybe he will fall past that. He kind of feels more like a Packers offensive lineman than anything, like a tackle that will probably be kicked into guard or center. I don't think he'll ever actually end up being a center. I don't think he's trained properly as a pure center. I don't know if his recognition, his IQ, matches that of a high-level center, especially on a team as famous as the Cowboys, who are having really damn good centers. You'd be drafting him to be the successor to Tyron Smith, and he just doesn't have the arm length for it, and he does not have the pedigree for it at pick 24. If this was round number 2, I think it'd be worth taking the shot, but he did do some serious damage to his reputation there at the Senior Bowl. Of course, TBD as to how far they'll actually drop him. Cooper DeJean then goes at pick 25. I don't think I'll be able to say this better than what I did in my mock draft this week, the one with trades, so feel free to check that out. But essentially, I said there's no better fit in the entire draft than Cooper DeJean to the Packers. Maybe Joe Alt to the Titans, but there's not really a better one. Penix then goes to replace Baker Mayfield because they have not re-signed him. He's right now projected at 3 years at, I believe, what is that? I think it was 21 a year. So not bad. Like, I think it was a 363. It's just coming off the top of my memory. So don't quote me on that one, but I think it was a 363 is the quoted price. I think that's worth it because Baker actually brought your team to the playoffs and beat the Eagles. Not single-handedly, but he still did he had a big part in that. And I think he's not that much older than Michael Penix is. So you're not going to be saving too many years by going to Michael Penix. I still think Michael Penix has a lot of potential. And, the big time throws are not something that every quarterback in the NFL can do. I will say, I think we get enamored by those big throws, and a lot of the quarterbacks, including the backups, you will see them make those throws back in their college heyday. So it's a little bit humbling because, oh, wow, look at that throw by Penix. Imagine that to be Davante Adams. If you go back and look at the backup quarterback on, look at Aiden O'Connell, for example, who we're already replacing in this. You look at some of his highlight throws. If you took away the context and you just put a different quarterback from this class in there, some people are going to get a little fuzzy and a little bit cuddly with the idea that he could be a really good quarterback. So just got to keep that in mind. We get excited every single year, but we got to remember we were excited about him last year. And we're replacing them this year. So, again, you got to remember, even if guys have talent, are they going to be legit starters? I think Michael Penix could be. But, it is something to think about. Byron Murphy going to the Cardinals is an unbelievably amazing pick. Great value. The dude should be a top 15 pick. But, he ends up falling here to 27 to a team that is really desperate for defensive interior. At pick 28, we got Brian Thomas Jr., essentially Christian Watson going to the Buffalo Bills. Good player overall. I think he's just very role specific, hence why he'll be pretty damn far down my board. Not saying it would be a bad player to have on your team, but I grade a player holistically, not just on one role. I do post-draft analysis for that reason. Nate Wiggins then goes to the Detroit Lions at pick 29. He's a phenomenal corner, very smart. I just don't like the fact that he doesn't like to go into the box to make plays versus the run. I don't think that he would be received well with that type of personality by Dan Campbell. That being said, at pick 29, kind of worth it. At pick 30, the Ravens go Chop Robinson. They got Odafe Owe there, so they could just go back and get another raw Penn State edge rusher and develop him. Wouldn't be an awful idea. I love Chop. I still have him as a top 32 player. He's number 31 on my board. So, obviously, I think that the value is proper. I just don't think that the Ravens have found a mechanism to take advantage and develop their edge rushers properly. What happened to David Ojabo? We were all talking about him as the next Dwight Freeney. Tears his ACL or something at one of his pro days or the combine, and all of a sudden, oh my goodness, we just forgot about him. He slipped to the second, and it's like, oh wow, they're gonna get a second round player who's gonna not even need to start for a year. He's gonna end up being a beast. He's nowhere. So why are we bringing another raw edge rusher in there when we can't get the ones that should be performing? My only counter to that. But still, I am open to the idea. It is just something you really need to consider. At pick 31, Braylon Trice goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. Feels extremely redundant with what they already have there. Edge rusher is not one of those positions I think they need to go after. George Karlaftis has this very similar, if not exact, profile. I feel like this is a major oversight with the wide receivers that are on the board. I mean, I would highly recommend going Troy Franklin at this time. A.D. Mitchell, like those guys are completely different players. I used to use them interchangeably, but completely different players. You can just go after a much better value for the impact they'll have on the roster. I don't agree with this remotely. And then at pick 32, we got A.D. Mitchell, speaking of, going to the Niners because they're most likely going to have to trade away Brandon Ayiuk. I mean, for the Niners' sake, I hope they don't. But A.D. Mitchell brings the route running capacity that Ayiuk has. I don't think he brings the explosiveness. I mean, explosiveness in terms of how he breaks out of the route, yes. But explosiveness off the line, the top end speed, I don't see it. I think he is George Pickens with a Terrace Marshall mentality. That's my exact quote. That's my exact comp. Somebody who has a ton of potential, has the finer details of the game down, but sometimes doesn't put 100% of their effort into every play. I don't know if the Niners would be able to get that out of him because they've had quite a bit of drama in their receiving core. But if you can, A.D. Mitchell will be George Pickens for you. And George Pickens is a really freaking good wide receiver and well worth the top 32 pick. So this will be heavily dependent on how much faith I have in that receiving core and the coaching in general. So that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. Show the support you always do. See you on the far side. Peace.